everyone, this is Generation Dan. I'm a human being. These are two more human beings. And this week we're going to be talking, not really human beings, like almost.
Arguably.
I feel like we're a great impression of a human being, and cumulatively, we may be sane. Cumulatively.
Yeah, or we are human. I mean, human.
We are excellent carbon copies of what the idea of a human should have been.
Theory, yeah.
In theory.
On paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone went draw a human and a guy went, I can't really remember, but I'll try my best, that's us.
That reminds me of that picture of the horse looking into the camera. He's like, you've drawn a horse before. Yeah, I know what a horse looks like. And you're like, that does not look like a horse at all.
Oh, the medieval drawing where they can do like the front way thing? Yeah.
Yeah, with me, it's more like, I don't know, like I've seen like punk rock type guys that tried ketamine one time. I guess I can kind of draw something that reminds you of that. And then bam, here I am.
Caleb McDuff, the human avatar of
the human avatar of the ketamine prototype.
That's a real good title.
It's what I have.
We're a podcast about Gen X, Y, and Z talking about a thing. That's Dino. I'm Atlas. That's Caleb.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
So, what's going on, fellas? Our guest canceled on us this week.
Guest canceled on us on the last minute. You see, and this is the thing, is like, life happens, and realistically, I understand that, but at the same time, I'm a very, very suspicious bastard. Like, I always assume crazy things, but you know what? I hope she'll make time for us another time, and we can have her on.
You're like... my girlfriend and I are watching The Sopranos right now. You're like everything. Oh, you fucking wise guy. Are you trying to run out on me?
You know what? I have The Sopranos on like DVD somewhere.
Yeah.
That sentence didn't make any sense to me, Dino.
Okay, so like Blu-rays, but a little shittier. Like just a little bit.
Okay. Interesting. That's like the little circle thing that like the movie comes out of, right?
Yeah, and then like Blu-rays are that thing where like people used to be able to own them, and it wasn't like whether or not the streaming gods will keep it on their platform.
Yeah. That is a particular choice of words that I do not support.
Streaming overlords.
These things that you could own, you were in charge of them. It was great. Like, wow.
No, for real. Like physical ownership of stuff is really kind of like creeping out the door a little bit. And a lot of companies are trying to make it so you don't own anything. You just kind of...
Well, that's already around with a lot of programs and stuff, right? Like even the editing program that I use for our clips and everything, like it's a monthly or yearly subscription. And I'm like, that's really... It's really dodgy because I know that they're collecting some sort of information, right? Because that's just what companies do, I assume now. Yeah. But it's like, but I'm paying you. And I'm paying you regularly, I don't feel like that's fair.
Exactly.
You know? It seems pretty ridiculous.
Or if you don't buy the physical copy of like a video game, and then maybe your account gets corrupted or hacked, or God forbid, like this happened recently with the Wii U, they just shut down the store, so you just
can't use it anymore.
Your stuff anymore.
Well, you can still access your library. You just can't like. You can't update your software. You can't
play against people online anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
Which and that's this is okay. So and that's why like I brought up this topic as something to discuss. Just since we don't have questions, online communities, and then also I saw something today that made me think about the metaverse in and of itself. Which I am aware that the metaverse is not a one thing place; it's a multiple thing place.
It's Mark Zuckerberg wants it to be his so bad, and he's so terrible at it. We're just like, nah, fuck you.
He tried to manipulate a Kleenex situation, right?
A Kleenex situation? What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Pass me a Kleenex, right? Metaverse, it's him. But it's not him. It's everything, right?
Except everyone's still calling it Facebook, right?
Exactly. Like that's why he tried to manufacture a Kleenex situation, and you're like, "Hey, guy, you ain't Kleenex. You got to be Kleenex to be considered Kleenex, right? Like, if he was the best metaverse, like, look, people say, "Oh, just check Netflix," and you'll check Prime, you'll check Disney, you'll check all these other things. But realistically, when you think streaming service, you think Netflix. Up until last month, which apparently now they suck. So
they've been sucking.
At the time, I have a whole rant in me, but at the time of us recording this, Netflix is on a bit of shaky ground because they announced two things. One, they're going to start having commercials on their platform where they never had them before, like not even as a commercial option like Hulu. A, and B, they're going to start cracking down on password sharing, which is like the whole reason. Like, if all the streaming services are going to, like, if there's going to be like 12 of them, that's just how it's going to be. You and your family, like, I pay for Hulu, mom pays for Netflix, brother pays for Amazon. Like, that's just how it works, guy. Like, it's not.
But that's not.
Those things are kind of interconnected too, right? Like they're changing their payment structure to where my understanding of the situation, when I like read up about it the other day or whatever, was like they want to introduce like a similar like tiered payment system to where it's like you can pay for like an experience with ads and it's cheaper, and they also want to minimize the amount of people that are password sharing. So that's why they're going to break it down so that people that are password sharing, they're going to be customers instead of just like moochers, because Netflix kind of realized, like, how are we not growing in subscribers? It's like we have like 200 million users or whatever. It's like, 100 million other users aren't paying us. Like, how do we get their money?
Well, because it's that folly of everything must be growing forever or else you're not successful.
Okay.
Which is stupid.
But you guys, I'm not sure if you guys remember this, was that when you got cable, you actually paid for how many outlets you had. So you could run wire, if you knew how, you could run wire and a splitter yourself, but that may not work. Okay? Yeah. So, okay, you know what? The face is just inflammatory and just it's not necessary. It's not necessary, sir. How dare you?
I need you to take a screenshot. Or like, I'm going to take a screenshot of Caleb.
Just that's going to be
an anagram of Cable. His new name is Cable. Doing this, and then that's going to be the thumbnail. I have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that's the thing is like, growing up, like we always fixed our basements and stuff like that. So we were handy, right? So we knew how to run wires and stuff like that. But like we knew just enough to not get killed versus actually knowing how to do shit, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when it came to machines, sure, building a house, it won't fall, but is it safe? Probably not. So, like...
Oh, yeah, my generation, I'm going to tell you, most of us are not handy, okay? Like, if someone broke in my house, I wouldn't touch it, one, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I'd probably die, and two, it would fuck up my nail polish, bro. Like, are you serious?
I think it's just your parents didn't teach you. We become less handy as time goes on.
True.
And then, but now you can 3D print a house.
Yeah.
So
I just remember, like, this was almost, like, I think 10 years ago at this point, like, back when I saw this Van Halen concert about whereabouts. But there was, like, a news article, like, millennials are taking classes on how to be handy, and then, like, a bunch of boomers were dunking on us, like, don't know how to, wire an addition or whatever. And we're like, well, because you didn't teach us anything.
But remember, boomers saw war, right? So they got problems, guys.
Some of it, some of them did, yeah.
Hey, trust me, they all got affected by PTSD in some way, shape, or form. The difference was
time they wasted in Vietnam.
Not to mention, I found out this guy was what's his name? He was responsible for putting lead in gasoline, which made a whole generation stupid. Like, scientifically, and he was responsible for creating CFCs, which made a literal hole in the ozone layer.
So twice he almost killed mankind.
Yeah,
like
and
full
his name Thomas Midgley, Midgley Jr.
He should die, and there should be no glory to his house. Every offspring of his should be punished.
Glory to your
house. He died in 1944, so he never got to see like the consequences. Like. Yeah.
He was actually Hitler. That's why. Are you kidding me?
He was actually Hitler.
Think about it. The two things that he did literally had the best chance of killing humankind, en masse. Like, the entire planet should have died because of him. Not once, twice. That's a lot, man. Listen, you remember the guy who made dynamite who's like, I have become death? Right, like
I am become death, destroyer of worlds, and I think that was Robert Oppenheimer, and that was the nuclear bomb. Not you're thinking of Alfred Nobel, who.
So
Robert Oppenheimer.
They're attached. It was originally done with dynamite. Anyways, the point is this. Okay. That guy, in his mind, he's like, what I've created... So the guy who made dynamite was like, having made this should actually solve all war. There should be peace. Because now we realize how easily we could just get rid of people. This will bring peace. And it made things much worse. Right?
I think it just made it more efficient. Like, he just streamlined the process.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Because everyone was like, well, we could be peaceful, or we could do something with it. And it's like...
Wait, so you're telling me that I have a weapon that instead of having to sacrifice dozens of men with single-shot rifles to go into a town and take it, we can just blow up the town?
From distance.
Yeah. You don't even have to go up?
Yeah, yeah. And that's why you're getting like, look, man, throughout history, those kind of things have happened, and it's I'm questioning the idea that, like, having no community versus having an online community, and you have things like the metaverse, which realistically it's being posed as that's the only chance that your two generations will have at actually owning something, which is nothing. You're owning nothing. You own nothing in an imaginary place that theoretically could be stripped from you for no reason whatsoever.
At any point, yeah.
So you're like, there's no, like, I believe the whole blockchain technology is intent on you not losing what is yours theoretically, because there's a record that is accessible. But the problem is, having an accessible record means that
everybody's got access to it. Yay!
Like, you know, tell that to my screenshotted Bored Apes, dude.
Yeah.
Listen,
I'm the greatest art thief that has ever lived.
I feel like if you got to do that, if you're going to say that, you're say it with a French accent.
I am the greatest art thief that has ever lived.
You got to do this.
The power button and the up volume button at the same time, and I take your valuables.
You have to play with your mustache when you're saying it, though.
All your NFTs are mine. The monkey is in my camera roll.
Like, you know, the one about I want to say Jack Dorsey, his first tweet coming back. Somebody sold for like $500,000, and then when it went on resale, it was like $3.
Yeah.
Yay! And you're like, what is happening with these people? Like,
because it's not real.
Yeah.
Like, at least for trading card games, which I'm going to keep comparing to NFT people because it's just as stupid. At least with trading card games, the card can do something. If it's like, okay, I can use this to drop my opponent's life points to 0 in our imagination. That still does more than an NFT.
I believe it's the actual fundamental of possession and an actual event, right? Like, it has an effect on a process, right? Like, that gives it some sort of value. Whereas when something's just exists, you're like the best analogy I saw was, imagine marrying the prettiest woman in the world and having a marriage contract, right? Like, you get married. She continues to bang anyone she wants, but you have the marriage contract, and you're like, that is not a nice analogy. And they're like, yep, but that's it.
The more I learned about NFTs, the less they made sense.
I know, right?
Yeah. It's literally, you're buying literally nothing. Like, you're buying like a segment of like someone's random blockchain like position, whatever that they put out there that's represented by like the Bored Ape or whatever the fuck. But that's it. You're just buying a digital data point that's like represented by a picture,
and there's a record of it.
We teach, crypto bros Magic the Gathering. This shit disappears overnight.
Oh god, Black Lotus is already so expensive though. What are we gonna do now?
They're such nerds.
Or Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't give a shit. Like, get them into Drytron or Dogmatica. I'm sure.
No, they can have fucking Digimon, dude. Get the fuck out of here.
Digimon's good too. Yeah.
You both have made points that you think is forward. It makes it worse. Just to be clear.
If it's worse for them, who cares?
You know that I'm doing a literal meme, right? Like, I don't care.
I know. You know what though? You can't not care, right? You're into that, Liz. By the way, like, you are almost completely dark way. By not being able to call them boobs. That's the I'm like this
no more
there's boobs. no like, oh, I can make cleavage. No, don't got that. Sorry. It's just like they can I'm like I can yeah, they don't touch. That's that's it's like, look, you can invest in Spanx. That's fine. I understand that. That was a horrible face, by the way, Caleb.
I was gonna hold it for as long as it took for somebody to comment on it.
So inappropriate.
For people just listening to this, I recommend going and watching on YouTube.
Well, there will definitely be clips of some very, very uncomfortable looking faces. That's for sure.
Yes,
that's for sure. But no, it's this is the thing, is there's so much lack of truth, and like realistically, the whole idea of finding an online community is to belong, right? I think, which everyone wants, which I understand completely.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is that people get a little bit crazy when it comes to online communities, and it does not make sense. Like, it's not like, hey, we have common interests, we can talk, but it's like, it's demanding, like, no, we have to have everything the same. And it's like, that's not accurate.
There's a difference between like, constructive discussion in an online community and like lively debate or whatever, and just outright like yelling at each other. And there's a difference between the two. Like, I'll give you an example. So in one of the Vanguard Discords right now, they released a new card, and it's part of this like archetype that this one YouTuber is like all in on. Like, that's his thing.
Okay.
Is he focuses on this archetype, and he's got a Discord server, and I go and like go there sometimes and just watch, and they're trying to figure out the best deck and the best lines of play with this new card.
I understand. And
they are just going and going and going to the point where they have like Excel spreadsheets full of this shit.
Fire.
And they're like, yeah, so like at this point, the most like attacks they've gotten out of a turn, like for reference, the normal amount, like because you have 3 front row circles, is 3. They got to 14, which is crazy to me.
Very impressive, yeah.
Yeah.
But wouldn't each deck that come out be able to be refined to that point?
Yes, but there's also like, oh, you can, like, there's still debate. It's not like there's one correct answer. Right?
Sure. No, that's fair.
You have people being like, yeah, but against this matchup, we can't do this because they'll try and do this against us. So maybe this is a better option. And like, they're like, it's just constant like debate going back and forth. Like, I like doing like, running less of this and more of this, so I can, have this option against this kind of opponent.
Right. I'm aware. I understand that.
Yeah.
But is that fun?
Yeah. For them. It's fun to kind of get in the weeds on something like that. Like, it's the equivalent of you trying different editing techniques for the clips on this show, because like you get in the little like nitty gritty and just trying different stuff.
I've thrown my hat in the rings of a couple of different like esports communities. Like, I was playing competitive Call of Duty, like traveling for tournaments for a while.
Wow.
I played competitive Street Fighter before. And like, it's all just like when you're in something deep like that, like the whole community just revolves, especially when we're just talking about like the competitive aspect of it. Oh my God. Yeah. Like, there's just hours and hours and hours of just grinding in the lab and just like matchup knowledge. And then especially as the games get deeper, just like there's even more layers to the onion they got to peel back. And it's like a puzzle, and it is fun if you're into it, but it can get also pretty exhausting if like that's not what your brain is wired to do,
Yeah, like Dan Grove, who has been on this show, he's really into Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah,
that's
Marvel.
Yeah,
yeah.
But there's like lots of like little lines of play and like techniques and practice.
Sure.
Yeah.
See, and this is where like I find it funny because I remember telling Caleb how I play Overwatch, and he was like, "Isn't that just to hate people?" And I'm like, I find it very, very refreshing. Like, no, I do. It's
Overwatch
weird.
Fun with the right people.
No, I'll just go with random people, and I'm just like, I find it so enjoyable because especially when people get really angry, and I'm like, you have no power over anything. Like, and the best people are like, can somebody kill that guy? I'm like, hey, guy, just look down. You're holding a gun. Just go take care of it. And he's like, well, I can't. Then say, help. Those aren't the. Can someone take care of it? You're not in charge of anything. You're a putz. Right? So it's very enjoyable for me. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you are unqualified to give orders. And it's very, very refreshing. Because then people are like, can you heal me more? And I'm like, be healable. You're too far forward. I'm unsafe.
See, where you find it refreshing, I find that shit exhausting, dude. That's why I had to quit playing competitive games, because I couldn't deal with the fucking hours and hours of just being berated and being told that my mother is being sexually violated by a 15-year-old for hours on end. I just couldn't handle it anymore, dude.
Listen, that's when you use your Zoomer powers to find out where they live and bang their mom. That's what you do. Okay?
It's like, all right, if you don't shut the fuck up, I'm gonna give you a baby brother, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Let's see. Like the only way to comment people are like, yeah, well, I had sex with your mom. Oh yeah, she's dead. You're disgusting. And then watch them go. What? And be like, oh, I heard you fuck dead things. That's disgusting. I heard you dug up an animal. Just go right to the wall.
Online engagement like that is just a series of escalation until someone says the N-word. Like, that's all it is, bro. That is online gaming communities in a nutshell.
I find it very enjoyable because I just watch them go crazy, and I'm like, this is hilarious for me because, and remember, there was a time in my life that I would just start unloading on them, and like I would make them cry, right? Because I do comedy that way if I want to. I choose not to. I don't find it enjoyable. But now I'm just like, whatever. Like somebody's like, oh, I want to be that character, and I'm like, that's too bad. I got it first. And they're like, well, no, I can't do anything if you don't let me be that character. And I'm like, that sucks for the whole team. Too bad.
Although, as we're talking about this, it kind of brings me back to what we were talking about before we started recording, before Atlas joined, like the whole like notion of people finding their passions and that it being a constant process of you having to dissect and look within yourself to see like what's actually bringing joy in your life. And like that's kind of another thing, like, because like I said, I used to do esports and all that kind of stuff. It used to bring me a lot of joy for a long time, but I don't know. It's like if you're not constantly doing that upkeep of like trying to find out, like, okay, is this actually what I want to do? Like, is this something that's worth spending my energy on? Because it, with a lot of the things that I've kind of turned away from, it always comes back to there comes a point where it's like this isn't bringing me anything anymore. Like I just I sit down to like log in and like practice or whatever, and I just fucking hate my life. Like there's nothing I would rather do less.
I think it, like, obviously you can, you take breaks, or in the case of like if your community is too toxic, then it's just not worth the time anymore. But I've definitely had that sort of thing with Vanguard, and I missed a couple of like sets during the game, or just like if something's going on in my life, you just kind of put it in a corner and deal with, I don't know, moving into a new apartment with your girlfriend or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it never like,
wait,
I broke him.
You can do that?
Yeah, I know, right? What's wrong, Dino?
Okay, so but that brings me. No, I just found it very funny that string of logic was very entertaining to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
But
I'm here
the
all
whole
night.
idea. No, listen. Sorry, you guys are delayed for me. I don't know what's happening. I think my video is getting short.
Okay.
It'll equalize in a little bit, I'm sure. Sorry. But this brings me on to the next idea, right? Like, is it an equal replacement for the physical? And that's specifically around the idea. Well, I think about it this way, right? Like, every day, like, you have to fight your nature, I guess, or what nature has been created, right? So if you're a negative person, you have to try and be positive every day. That's a constant battle, right? Yeah. Being a positive person, trying to look at the good in people, all those things, those are every day you can fail, and tomorrow you'll have to fight again. There's no question about that. And in the same sense, where
I felt that in my soul, dude.
Yeah, bro.
Every day you
but it's true.
You can fail, and every day you have to fight again. And then also, this is said, at least from my point of view, what I'm looking at is that Dino's like visual quality is so bad that he looks like the first Harry Potter game where Hagrid's face looks like it's stapled to it.
Yeah.
You're a blizzard, Harry.
Just super
if anything,
big.
I want to become a
Polygon Hagrid.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry. Continue. I didn't mean to.
No. It happens. But so the whole idea, though, is think about it, is that when it's a physical environment. So an example, I would go on bachelor parties, and a lot of times we would go and gamble at a casino somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And every time we did that, like I'd come in and I would, I'd give my buddies a tap on the shoulder, be like, "Hey, I think you should stop." And they'd be like, "Oh, but I'm doing really well." I'm like, "Yep. I know.
I'm on a streak." Right? Yeah.
I'd be like, "I think you should stop now."
That is exactly why you must stop.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Listen, I'm telling you, it's your money. You can do whatever you want. I think you should stop for your own good." And they go, "Okay." And like one guy was up like $600, and I'm like, "Hey man, I think you should stop." He goes, "You're right." Well, no, and then we spent the money at the Peelers. It was great.
So, I just imagine
sorry, is that a place where they like take care of oranges and like fruits? What's a Peelers?
It's exactly what they do.
Awesome, great, cool.
No, it's
hey mom, can we go to the Peelers?
I just imagine like you like put a tender but firm hand on their shoulder. Dude, I think you should stop. And he's like, "What? I'm on a hot streak." And then you disappear, and then you come back with your phone, a Filthy Frank, going, "It's time to stop.
It's time to stop."
And then the guy's like, "Okay, I got it. We're good. Let's go."
Well, then that's the best part is my hand kind of goes like covers some of their shoulder and then down onto their chest as well. And it's like, "Hey, I'm grabbing half your torso. I say we leave."
You are constantly threatening to palm anyone you touch like a basketball. Just pick them up.
I can palm a basketball. Like you can knock it out of my hand, but I can palm it. And that was one of my prides as a teenager where I could
being able to palm a basketball.
And I nailed somebody right in the face. I'm like, whap, and then dribbled away. And they were like, "You just hit me." I'm like, "No, I didn't." And the ref was like, "I didn't see nothing." I'm like, "Suck it." So yeah, but that's like, look, when you are in a physical environment, someone who's not swept away with the community of it, right?
Yeah.
You have people who will go, "Hey man, you're spending too much time there. Hey man, you haven't slept in 3 days." And like that part of being in a community is kind of removed when it's online or exclusive and it doesn't have, your own protections, I guess. Like you're very vulnerable in an online community is the way I see it.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to truly replace human interaction. There's something like chemical about seeing people in person that you can never truly replicate online.
Although one thing that's kind of wild when it comes to like the metaverse and like how everything's kind of evolving, especially socially speaking. So I have young siblings. Like I have a sister who's like 11, about to turn 12, and it's kind of crazy. So they got Oculus Quests for Christmas. Both my brother and my sister, both younger than me.
Yeah.
And the predominant social interaction that like my younger sister has outside of school is that as soon as she comes home, she's plugged in. Like she puts the headset on, and like that's where all of her friends are. Like that's where they hang out. Like that's where they play games together. That's where they talk, and it's hours. Like and that's kind of where it's starting to maybe inch toward. Because at first it began, Xbox Live. I mean, kind of the same deal. Kids would come home after hanging out of school, and you're on Xbox Live all night talking to each other that way. And now it's just slowly becoming more and more optimized to become as immersive as humanly possible so that you're just sucked in there. And I think the whole Facebook Meta thing, like they're kind of laying like the groundworks a little bit because like as bad as Zuckerberg wants it, as bad as that Android lizard man wants it, he's not going to be like the definitive metaverse, but someone else is going to come along in like 5 to 10 years and they are going to run because Mark Zuckerberg walked,
Yeah. Well, also because Zuckerberg has like no charisma and he thinks he has charisma.
That too.
Zero. Zero charisma.
Terrible salesman.
You ever hear the theory that whenever someone gets famous, they stop maturing? So I think that happened where like he gets famous at like what 20, and then now he's like 40 something.
The only way that works is if at 20 he was still like sucking from the teat. Like he's weird, man. Like you just look at him, you're like, you're not human. There's no way he's normal.
They've done like Behind the Bastards on him, and it's like he was a weird little kid, like just to begin with.
Which you have to be, right? Like you have to be
to do something like that. Yeah,
yes.
Like our society rewards psychopaths.
Also true. So that being said, right? Like so, what we were talking about earlier too was with regards to the only solution now to our woes is alien incursion, which I don't disagree with at all, but there's a lot of conspiratorial evidence that says there are some historical events that are not only unexplainable, but it seems like there were huge divisions with regards to technology base or technology standards in what we think of as ancient civilizations too, right? So it's kind of like, hey, and granted, there are a lot of comics based around the idea of hidden civilizations that saw humans and are like, fuck those guys, we're going into hiding, right? So it seems like there's this whole kind of evolution that we're seeing where it's like, we don't know how much propaganda we're consuming. We know there is propaganda in general, right? Yeah. And like when I grew up, there was propaganda that was like, that's all you got, because there was crazy stuff in tabloids and you're like, that's insane. You're like, oh, Elvis is still alive. Okay. And now we're going, so Elvis might actually be alive. Weird thing.
There's like misinformation everywhere. And like, it's a matter of like just trying to be as educated as you can and to read as much as you can. And just have that. Yeah, that's the problem though. Like there's misinformation everywhere.
Well, it's not even misinformation. It's a fundamental disinformation, right? Like people are hiding history actively on a regular basis to streamline people's perspective, right? And that's where you're going. So we don't actually know how much propaganda we're actually consuming, right? Even to this day, there are people in Japan who don't know the role that Japan had in World War II. You're going, that's...
Nothing happened in Tiananmen Square, apparently.
Sure.
That's China, though.
In other
words, you're American. People just they go,
I'll give you an example. So earlier this year, NBC put out a news story about how Rite Aid is closing down 63 of its locations all through California.
Okay.
And it cited they're doing this to try and raise profits because there's too many of them, basically. They also did a news story this morning for like local news LA that was like the Rite Aid in Van Nuys is closing because of crime. And I'm like, okay, first off, not only is that not true, but you told me it wasn't true 6 months ago.
The Rite Aid is not closing because of bad business or crime, and the aliens are in Area 51, and I want to fuck them. I want to fuck them. I want to clap the alien cheeks. I know they're hot. They have to be hot, otherwise you wouldn't have hid them from us for so long. I know that they got mad Bunda hiding over there in Area 51. I know that as soon as I run in there as fast as I possibly can, so fast that the bullets can't touch me, that I'm going to find those aliens, and they're going to fall in love with me, and I'm going to become the Prince Emperor of the entire known galaxy.
Caleb is the Gen Z version of Dale from King of the Hill.
That's very possible. Listen, all I know is that's going to make a great clip, and we've learned this week that the more aggressive the title, that is what they're running on right now. So, because when I made the clip called "Filthy Colonizer," and that got 1,300 clicks. So
good to know. That's
well, listen, I'm kind of so I made it a clip on my channel because I was like, I made the joke where it's like I would turn on the whiteys and be like, yeah, honkies, where's the money? Because I think that's hilarious. But at the same time, it's like, I may have muffed it up a little bit. It's quite aggressive. But I'll tell you, This clip is going to be Caleb wants to bang an alien. And I'm telling you, I'm going to get over 1,000 on that one too. But look,
I know, Biden, listen to me. Listen to me.
Okay, I looked down and looked up, and he's like right next to the camera. What the fuck?
I can break through. Okay?
Can you imagine that? No, like realistically, what if it was like the key to the aliens is Atlas's saber-shaped wiener? That's to fit perfectly like a key.
There's just like a little saber-shaped keyhole somewhere on a UFO that we just haven't quite figured out yet.
And then like you have me standing next to it, like, why isn't the door open? I'm flaccid. Okay, can someone like,
ladies,
can you turn up the goddamn AC? Maybe Jesus.
You just go, hey, ladies. Those 3 guys, one guy, you go to the back.
I'm a grower, not a shower, please.
Nothing wrong with that.
Look, I'm just saying, nobody wants to be the victim of propaganda, but we all are to some extent.
I feel like I think that's a true statement, though. We know that we are victims of some sort of propaganda, but we have no
idea
we don't
what
know
it is until later, usually.
Well, not even that. Like, we don't know the scope of how much misinformation or disinformation is out there, right? Like, we're not, like, up here, like in Canada, there's the whole thing with regards to the Indigenous population that is having issues with access to clean water, which you're like, that's a nightmare, number one. But then also, too, there was with regards to there's a huge part of history where they were taking Indigenous children away from
the
Indigenous people.
Schools?
Yeah. And like, dude, it's horrible. The more you read, the worse it gets. And you're just going, oh, and I'm like, I'm happy my parents didn't immigrate earlier. that's because, oh my God.
And it's just stuff where like you find out much later and you're like, Jesus Christ, you didn't learn about it in history class, or like I learned about this thing in World War I yesterday, where the British spent 2 years digging lines under the German trenches. So like they went like toward them and then down.
Yep.
And planted like over 10,000 pounds of dynamite, some insane number, and the explosion killed 10,000 German soldiers
because they put it in the wrong place. Yeah.
Well, no, they did it on purpose. It was to like,
you mean that
their lines? Because normally when they would do that during World War I, it was to like bury supplies or fuck up a supply line or something. Right. This just killed people because they were trying to do the World War I equivalent of a nuke. And now if you go there, it's literally just a big crater. Yeah. And I just didn't know that existed until yesterday, and that's fucking insane.
So,
and then also the technique they used to dig that tunnel that deep was used to build the London Underground. So, yay.
So there was there's actually an entire group of people, I believe they're Irish, that were used to make railroads in the United Kingdom. Okay. And remember, when they were making the railroads, they were literally bent over at the waist for 8 to 12 hours a day. Okay. But it was like a generational thing, like 3 generations of men who did this. So by the time the 3rd generation came around, these guys would spend all their day bent over, no problem whatsoever. Okay. And like and they were like the fastest, the best, the least issue. Like, it was a whole series of things where you're going, these people were incredible, but that was because like they were like they produced these people that were able to put down railroads faster, and you're going, that's actually horrible. And it's the same thing with people who dug tunnels and trenches in World War I and World War II, right? Like, and in these kind of histories, you're going, hey, why don't we know this kind of stuff? And you're going, oh yeah, because didn't really want to tell anybody. It's kind of a downer. Yeah. It's a lot worse than a downer.
And they're like something critical race theory or whatever bullshit they try and do. I found out that the Brooklyn Public Library, it has open audio and ebook checkout for anybody under the age of 20 in any state. So they're like, teenagers stuck in censorship, go on over. But
yeah.
I love shit like that.
The idea that a book isn't readable sounds insane to me. Like, that's like, why, if you had to block someone from reading a book that wasn't like racist, like, you know what I mean? Like, if it like there's, how would you just block off knowledge or perception in something? Like, it's very perplexing, right? Like, I don't understand the idea, because now there's a lot of books. Like, is 1984 blocked? It is, I'm pretty sure.
I think it is. There's like that. There's
A Brave New World.
Brave New World, Charlotte's Web, a couple other things. Like
Joke's on you guys. I forgot how to read like 3 years ago.
There you go. Yeah.
Who needs that shit?
Oh, well, it's getting to that point too, right? Like, do you remember there was a Ricky Gervais movie where they would, no one could lie? And
the
one of the things,
of lying. I remember that movie.
And the only thing that like actors would do was they would just read out history books. Like, that was their job. Like, that's how they would. And I'm like, you know what? That's a job that's coming back. Like, just being able to read things online accurately and well.
You've been on YouTube lately?
Yeah,
already a job,
dude. That's like most of my like shit that I like is like, all right, you know, oversimplified, extra history, that kind of stuff. But they just tell you stories of stuff that happened. And sure, they put a little like twist on it where, like, I don't know, they have a thing about the First Crusade, and they're like, why let a little bit of leadership dispute get in the way of a good crusade? And it's like a Mad Lib for the picture they have for that, and then they have like, why let a little blank get in the way of a good crusade? Like it you know, they put a little spice on it, but it's still like teaching you what happened and like what those mean.
I feel like that's a huge advantage that like secular educators should take advantage of. Like, the idea of being able to, like, hey man, somebody did a great video. Like, we had John Ruddy on here, which was awesome.
Yeah. We're bringing him back.
I hope he will come back, because it's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
He's just a great conversationalist too, right? But the idea that just being able to tell a story well, and you're like, listen, history is very, very interesting and valuable, just to understanding how life has changed over time, right? Like, people use the example of, like, in the 60s, the book you got for your car taught you how to change your valves, right? Whereas the one now teaches you how to, you know, to not drink battery acid out of your car. Right? Granted, but also there's, you know, they didn't have a CD player in the car. Like, it's, you know, like,
can you send me that book actually? I mean,
how to change a valve, or
the other one.
It's Cocktails with Battery Acid.
Remember, is there an audiobook version of that?
That's too far. That's
Cocktails with Battery Acid. That's a decent episode title. Let's
Cocktails with Battery Acid. That seems like my brain. But yeah, like, it's one of those things where I feel it just doesn't make sense that, like, especially right now, right, with all the amount of forced division, you would think that a united history would be something that would benefit people, right? I don't know. It's something that I think about constantly.
History is written by the victors. Yada yada.
Which is the first fall.
First of all, Victor, old name, stupid. Get it out of here. It's the rise of Declan and Hunter. Okay. History is written by the Declan. All right. Let's get that.
Also a good episode title. God damn it. I mean, like, I talk about this a lot with my professor friend. So, like, he's a history professor. Yes. And I asked him, like, as you teach people, like, going from one generation to the next, and, like, how you go about teaching them, how do you feel about things like YouTube as a teaching tool? And he's like, I don't hate it, but it's not something I myself could ever, like, do. And I'm like, that's not a problem. Like, you're a history professor. And I think, like, college courses, the bigger thing is, like, it's more about getting the person to write what they think and say what they think about history, as opposed to the video where they just go, here's what happened. And, like, spice on it, but it's still like told to you.
I think
that's what I like about John Ruddy is at the end he usually poses a question. To you.
Well, but the reason he poses a question is because he's taking a very specific period in time and documenting what happened, right?
Yeah.
And when he tells you that information, like he definitely where he ends it specifically is made to create the question, right?
Yeah.
Because now your options are, with the information you've given, can you predict the future? And if you can, now are you going to take the time to go and try and learn yourself, right? See, my opinion is that higher education should specifically be, not only should I tell you what actually happened, but now that I've told you exactly what happened, I want you to interpret it, right? Yeah. Now go and do the research on yourself, because the idea of being able to critically think is to take existing information and make it grow. Understand. Yeah. That's why, like, this is why English teachers are the worst, is because they will say, oh, well, what did the curtain color mean? Nothing. It didn't mean anything. We're talking about emotion and how people deal with things. Nobody cares about the colors of the drapes. It doesn't make any sense. So, but they're trying to seem relevant. It's ridiculous.
So I'm guessing, like, I bet I could tell which side of the death of the author argument that you fall on.
I don't know what argument that is.
Okay. Death of the author is the school of thought that when someone writes something, what they meant to do does not matter. It's what you, the reader, decide. If you're on the opposite side of the argument, it's the writer intended what they intended, and that's how it's supposed to be interpreted.
I'm in the first camp.
The first camp where, like, just whatever they did, that's
once the art is out there, like, once it's consumed,
up to interpretation.
Like, that's the whole, like, the art lives inside each individual brain differently. So
that's also kind of why I like doing comedy so much, is that's the kind of one art form where you're telling them specifically what you think.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no way around it.
Okay, but that's the thing, is that is what we've actually seen people go against, is like, well, I found it offensive, so now it's offensive. You're going, no, but I didn't mean it to be offensive, so why is it offensive, right? So it's the same thing, is that while I think I'm torn between those two sides of things, because once your art is out of you, it's no longer yours. It belongs to the universe or the hive mind, right? Like, that's my opinion.
Death of the author. That's
but at the same time, the author has every right to come in and say, no, that's wrong, right?
Dumbledore was gay.
He could say that, right? She could say that. It's like
canon.
That's fine, but you're going, like, they have, as the author, you do have you should be able to have control over your creative baby, right? Should it be discussed? Sure. Is it worth discussing? Also sure. Does your opinion matter more than the author's? Absolutely the fuck not. That's just, sorry. They made it. You could say, hey, I think your kid would benefit greatly from going on a trip and seeing the world and understanding things. You're like, great. You going to pay for it? No? Then shut the fuck up. Keep your opinion to yourself. I'm going to go do something else, right? Like, there's it's a valid concern, a valid understanding, right? But the author still is king. It's a difficult side.
It's hard to really come down on one side or the other all the time. The kind of troll in me, if I were to ever write a book that got published or write a TV show or whatever, is to, after that body of work ends, like 10 years later, come out with a written thing, like, this is exactly what I meant. So
sure.
Anybody who thought otherwise, you're wrong. Sorry. Like,
I wouldn't buy that book.
The problem is that A, nobody would buy it, and B, for the people would then start analyzing that, and they're like, what did he mean by that thing? Like, so it just it's a treadmill you'll never catch up to.
But like, imagine, like, you have, like, I don't know, like, in my brain, what makes sense to me is like music right now, right? So let's say you have like a record or like an album that you like listen to, and like it connects with you on like a really special emotional level, this interpretation you have, and you hold this interpretation true to your heart, and that's what makes the album beautiful to you. And then the artist comes out like a couple months later and says, like, oh, by the way, this is actually what the album exactly meant, and like, let's say, like, that completely clashed with like what I as the listener had in mind. Like, that would kind of ruin the album a little bit for me.
Yeah,
sure. Well, see, this is the thing, is that especially music has a whole other perception, or because it's a question of when we hear it, what's happening in our universe that it aligns with. Right, like Adele's Hello came out and was really popular right when my dad was like on his deathbed. I can't listen to that song, man. Like when I listen to that song, I fall apart, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I will listen to that song so I can fall apart a little bit. You know, that's it, right? Like that's being in touch with that side of your things. Like I hear that song and I immediately think of my dad passing, right? That's hard. But at the same time, I know I can always turn that song on and think of my dad.
Yeah. But then imagine Adele just busts in the room. And it's like, that's a breakup song, you idiot. That's not what that song's about.
Dude, right. I would pay to watch a TV show where they did that. Right? where you just have people, like, it's a shot of a guy arguing on the, like, no, that's not what they meant. And then just someone kicked the door in. It's like, I don't know.
Fuck, I did!
Well, no, it's like a conservative argument on, like, born in the USA as a patriarch son. Bruce Springsteen kicks the door in. It's an anti-Vietnam song, you fucking idiot!
I think it was Twisted Sister just did that for We're Not Gonna Take It.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's a kick in the nuts because there's like listen,
that's
every Republican wants to think like America first. You're like, guy, America's fucking up America right now. Okay, so let's just calm down.
That's actually
at the same time, it's sorry.
Everybody wants the art you listen to be about you, but it's not
sure.
Yeah,
that's also a good point. Like, what if as the artist, like you put your art out there, and people start interpreting it like the wrong way. Yeah. Like they start like taking it in the direction. Like, whoa! Like that is not what this is about. Like,
the best way, the best thing you can do as the artist is like, this is what I was trying to do when I wrote it. If you interpret it differently, I can't do anything about that.
There's an artist called Sugar Man, I believe, and his song became the song that helped bring down apartheid in South Africa. Okay. However, he never saw a dime, and he was like found decades later, like on the streets, broke with nothing. And then it kind of turned out that like his producer or agent or whatever kind of took all the money and everything, right? And like this guy got screwed out of everything, and it was kind of like, and there's actually a documentary. It's the Search for Sugar Man. So it was.
He got the guy,
worse. So he was still alive.
Like Stan Lee.
Well, that is another thing, right? Like, so you're like, there are people's art. Well, people's art gets stolen all the time, right? And realistically, how many times? Like right now, there's a bunch of songs that are being sued because there's actually a guy on Instagram who just goes, "Hey, you thought this was a new song? No, because it's right here in 77 and right here in 65." And you're like, "Damn it!" Right? So it's people, and even what was the song where with the naked chick with too many vowels in her name?
What?
What?
Well, wait, hang on. Before we try and figure out what it is, hold that image in your mind, listener, and try and guess who it is.
Leave a comment.
What do you think it is?
Leave a comment.
Okay, so wait. Naked chick with too many vowels in her name, not Bjork.
No, she's not the singer, but she's in it, and she wiggles her titties. She's very attractive. And now she's an actress, which, okay, sure.
You're going to make me literally snap my own neck from confusion.
Thicke. Alan Thicke's son.
Robin Thicke?
Yes! Robin Thicke did a song that was
that good. Dumbass Blurred Line song?
That's the song! So they got sued so bad.
By Marvin Gaye, right.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
See, I have a wealth of useless knowledge. Yeah. But titties, always on the mind.
Big wealth of useless knowledge. And like...
Okay, we got there.
Also, real quick, definitively, Caleb C. McDuff on Twitter at Generation Dan Podcast, official statement, Alan Thicke.
Okay. Hey, Alan Thicke is a Canadian treasure. Robin Thicke, yes, I follow you.
Sorry, Robin Thicke. Sorry, Alan, you're good. My bad. Alan, sorry. Your offspring?
Yeah, that's fair. And he's got a weird face, too.
Yeah. Todd in the Shadows is this music critic YouTuber, and he has a series called Train Records, where he covers like an album by an artist where it like ruined their career. Or
yeah,
that or
the
King
one
Bluestone.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so he did it about Robin Thicke after Blurred Lines, like the thing he tried to do when he was breaking up with his wife and stuff. Yeah, it's a good one.
I will check that out.
My other favorite one of his is the thing he does about Mardi Gras by CCR, where they were breaking up with each other, and it was just like awful because like not John Fogerty tried to write songs and they were terrible at it, and then like,
oh god, this is going out of control. I love it.
I know. Sorry, it's Generation Dan. We go off the rails.
It has been Generation Dan. This has been fantastic. Yeah, and definitely, yeah. Robin Thicke, he just looks. He's got too much. His face is all squished into one small area of his giant head. Which everyone who's famous, giant head. That's why
Just saying, Pharrell, I hope you got a fat bag, dude.
Yeah.
I hope you got a fat bag.
Oh yeah, and he was like, I didn't do nothing.
Bag and said, "See ya."
He did. They all left it on Robin Thicke's feet. You're like, yeah, it was his idea. Later.
Forehead.
They just threw him under the bus. That's
listen, he deserved to get thrown under the bus. He's the one who got banged by somebody. So, listen. And then it ruined his life, which he's still rich. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Anyways.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, I just wanted to at least try and wrap it up with the actual topic we started with. And I just want to say I think they're important, but I think they should be supplemental and not the only thing. Right? Go to a fucking bar with your friends, or go to the park, or if you're my friends, go to locals together, or something. Yeah.
Every person is an accumulation of different events, thoughts, experiences. So if the majority of your experiences are coming from one individual place, it will misalign the rest of your existence, right? By keeping a balanced perspective, which, listen, sometimes it may not be physical, right? Like the fact is, we're in the middle of an apocalypse right now, and I barely leave the house. But I still take the time to learn, to express myself, and to interact with various people to do that, right? So it's that idea of balance is what's most important. And it's a fair thing. It's just at the same time, some of y'all are trash and it's not good.
He's a modern man, a man for the millennium, digital and smoke free.
I'm so angry all the time.
Jesus Christ.
It's true, man.
So to listener, what do you think about online communities? Are you part of one? Which one is it? Leave a like, leave a comment, tell a friend. At Generation Dan on Twitter.
Link your Discord.
Yeah, we should start a Discord at some point. I feel like that would be,
Discord.
Well, we already linked up all of our Discords and became friends. It's so exciting.
Well, especially as with millennial and Zoomer listeners that actually.
I don't even know what to do with my Discord. I don't.
It depends what it is. Some are like living proof, and they're trying to figure out Spike Brothers combos. Some are just like my friends who literally we have a thing just for memes. Put a meme, and that's
I don't feel like we'll be friends very long if we have one of those, because I send some pretty wacky shit.
I saw your Bert and Ernie memes. You traumatized me, good sir.
I have more, and I have a lot. I have a lot to go through. It's very difficult. Anyways,
next time on Generation Dan, Bert and Ernie memes that are questionable in quality and ethical. Ethics.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
All right, where can they find us on the interwebs?
I'm Dino the Genetic Marvel. I am on YouTube, Twitch, and the Facebook, as well as Instagram. I don't really post on Instagram because I find it's not rewarding. It's just I don't feel good.
Either. I have one. I don't really do much with it.
Yeah, look, it's essentially don't mind me just watching, but at the same time, I'm not posting anything there, so don't bother. But yeah, my YouTube channel though, that's doing really well. So, and that's got a whole bunch of stuff and a few shows that are new, some comedy and all sorts of slapstick madness.
Slapstick Madness, another possible episode title. You can find me at Atlas Novak on Twitter, Instagram, or follow my other show at Nexus at Night in those same places. That's been a trading card game, like I've been saying for the past hour. Thanks everybody for listening. Caleb?
I am at Caleb C. McDuff on Twitter. That's the only place I'm at on the internet, and I'm not even active on there. So basically, I'm a ghost. But when things do come out, and I do have projects that are in the works, I swear to God, I'm working on things. It's happening. You just don't know about it. And when I'm ready for you to know about it, that's where it'll be.
Nice. Awesome. One more question before we go. Do you think a ghost and a zombie can come from the same person? So someone dies. Do you think their spirit wanders the earth as a ghost and their body just kind of shambles on as a zombie? Like, imagine if I died and then Ghost Me was just like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you punching their doors?
Are you seriously buying NFTs? Are you out of your goddamn mind?
Why are you on TCGplayer.com? You're dead. You can't play trading card games anymore.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Nobody's going to answer that? Okay.
I don't know. You're going to hurt me.
I don't think so, because if your body lives, that means your spirit's gone. Okay. But if your spirit's there, technically it depends on how much interaction a spirit would have with regards to the physical world, which theoretically should be nothing, because then we would be, well, in a worse situation than we are right now. But
if DMT trips count, then yes.
What'd you say?
If DMT trips count, then yes.
Okay. Well, that's the real thing, right? I guess that because that's not technically, that might be interdimensional travel at this point. We don't know, and I'm gonna find out this spring though. Yeah. So, anyways, this has been Generation Disc.
Bye, everyone.
DMT episode. Bye bye.